Here we are in mid-November 2020, a year that will always be remembered for COVID-19. Many of our residents are still mostly housebound, and all of us have found that our activities, whether it's travel or social, have been rather limited. The Green Thumb Club, which is part of Landing's Land Lovers, wanted to have a holiday program that could be accessible to almost everyone, and which probably means it would be online, and would introduce a bit of holiday cheer and the spirit of the holidays. We found a wonderful partnership with Adrian Williams, who was a professional flower arranger, owned a floral shop, and is now the head of the Flower Guild for St. Peter's Episcopal Church right here on Skidaway. She is going to make some arrangements for us today, and the partnership expanded when St. Peter's generously suggested that we could use their streaming facilities, which don't run themselves, so we have further volunteers who are helping us with that. Adrian is going to do 4 arrangements for us today. 3 of them are quite simple to do once you see how to do them, and would be useful in everyday life. And 1 is very dramatic. And now I'm going to turn this over to Adrian.
Hi, welcome to St. Peter's Church. We are doing a floral education series, and this is about holidays. I know many of us won't be with family, but we can still enjoy some of the floral seasonal things. So the first piece I'm going to do is for a fireplace mantel. As you can see, it's a pretty big piece. And the reason I have it sitting up here is because it's going to hang down over the edge of the fireplace, and I want to make sure that I design it that way. So we'll get started. In case I haven't already said, my name is Adrian Williams, and the pieces we're going to use today for this are going to be mums. And we're going to also use a variety of greens, and I'll tell you what they are as we go along. All right. Okay, so the first piece I'm going to use, it's called Huckleberry. It lasts forever. It doesn't need a lot of water, and I like it because it has a lot of character to the branch. So just imagine that this will be sitting on a fireplace. So I'm going to just start doing basic greenery. I'm going to turn this around, and I'll explain why I'm turning it around. When I prepare the oasis, I cut it at an angle in the front and on the sides. And I leave it high on the back, and you'll see why in a second, because we have more height with these pieces towards the back. And Kate is here guiding me today. So Kate, if you have any questions, just yell. I'm sure it's the same questions that everyone else has. It's hard to actually do this backwards, so I'll be flipping this around periodically to make sure that I am doing something that makes sense. But the biggest thing right now is to just get this greened in. The thing about holidays is greenery. There's always more of it than there is at any other time. And I kind of just start with a basic frame of it and just keep going. So one of the main pieces is this eucalyptus, which does not grow in my yard, so I had to go out and forage for it. But I don't think the bush minded. It was pretty overgrown. So I'm going to take off enough branches to reveal a nice sized stem. And it's pretty pliable, so you can kind of push it down and move it the way you want. But it is heavy, so make sure. I do like to scrape it off a little bit, but make sure that when you place it, you push it all the way in so that it doesn't continue to twist and move. All right, so I'm just going to continue to put this in. And let me just say this, when you're doing anything, but mostly greenery, you have to establish a center point and an angle. So if you'll notice, everything kind of comes to a focal point here, and then I'll go in and fill in everything so it just branches out. Okay. Did you see that twist? Yeah, I didn't tell it to do that. It wasn't supposed to do that. It was supposed to mind me. But they don't do that. And that's the one, it's a good thing and a bad thing about flowers. They are unpredictable, and no matter how hard you try, you can't make them do what you want them to do, but we just keep trying. Okay. So when you get ready to do your holiday piece, there will be a lot more holiday greenery available. But because we're doing this in Savannah in November, and we haven't even had Thanksgiving, this kind of stuff isn't normally available. So this is a type of pine. I'm not sure what type it is, but we're going to put some of this in too, just to give us some length. So when it's sitting on the edge, it should be doing kind of that. So when you're placing these, you want to make sure that the angle is more straight as opposed to down, especially when you're working on this part of it. Now when we get towards the front, you want the angles to go down. Kate, any questions? Okay, good. All right, so if you don't mind, I'm going to turn this around a little bit so I can speed up the greening process, and then we can get to placing flowers. But I'll continue to talk to you and tell you what we're doing. I should say what I'm doing. A lot of us, unfortunately, aren't going to be able to travel this holiday season, but there's a lot of opportunity online. I know that I'm going to be Zooming Thanksgiving with my kids. The good news is that I get to see them, and the good news is that I don't have to fix the whole dinner. So there are some benefits. But it'll be nice to be back in their loving arms, because we all miss them. All right, so that's that. We're going to now, I got to fill in a little bit more cedar, and I had another greenery here. Kate, let's see. Kate, there's that greenery that's in the design room. It's in a bucket. I meant to bring some in, and I just forgot. If you can get me a little bit, I'd appreciate it. Okay, again, it's cut and poke, cut and poke, cut and poke. That's how simple this is. And when you're cutting off of a stem, go to where it would attach. And you guys being gardeners, you know what I'm talking about. So you'll go to a branch or a joint, and that's where you're going to cut. And I always strip to give me more space, because this probably will be up for weeks, and it will hold as long as you water it. Great. Yep, I do. Actually, it's this right here. Oh, thank you. All right. And I should know what this is, but I don't. But it's a nice, dark, glossy leaf. And I was going to use magnolias, but it seems like the magnolias that I went to try to cut some are showing spots. So I didn't want to use those, but I don't know what's causing that. Do you know? Yeah, when they get those, they're like white marks all over the magnolias. I don't know what causes it, but it wasn't very attractive, so I didn't take any. But this will be just as nice, because it's a nice, dark, glossy leaf. All right, so we're going to put a piece here. So remember, the back is raised. So we just do something like that. Because this will be, now if you've got a picture hanging over your mantle, you may not want to do it this high, but usually there's some space there that allow for this kind of height. It's not too much height. Okay, now we need stuff that drapes. So here's the eucalyptus. Don't know what kind this is. There's so many different kinds. This one, you can see it's pretty twiggy, but it just has a nice floating kind of feel when you put it in an arrangement. And we're just going to let this hang out from various points. And if you have kids at home, or if you are young at heart, you might want to put some more ornaments or something in it. We do have a few that we were going to put, but we're not going to do a lot. We were just trying to keep it more simple with everything just being so hectic. It's just kind of nice to have something that just reminds you of an old-fashioned Christmas. So that's kind of what this is going to do, I hope. And again, just keep poking. And I will leave enough room for some flowers, but you'll see they will just kind of add to this arrangement as a focal point. And I think we're going to put a little ribbon in it too, but not much. All right. So let me just finalize this. Let's see. And another piece of cedar. I do tend to talk to myself, so forgive me. All right. Okay. It probably would make more sense for me to walk around. Then you can see I really do have legs. Okay, so this is what you're looking at. And this is what I'm looking at. Wrong way. Okay. All right. Great. All right, so I'm going to finish off with a few more pieces in the back. Now, I will say this. Because flowers and greenery are so expensive, I generally don't do a lot of completing things on the back. And because this is going up against the wall, I'm just going to put enough to keep it from being wet. And that's it. That's it. I'm not going to waste money greening up the back of this. I wish you could smell this. This is called naga, and it smells almost lemony. It's almost a shame to put this up here in the mantle, but I had some laying here, so that's what I'm using. Okay, so this is about it for the back, and now we can start putting some flowers in. All right, so we're going to use a few whites. And because these are more as an accent, I'm going to put them in kind of low, just so that it lightens up the piece. But I don't want it to take away from anything. And I generally used either a knife or floral shears. And make sure they're sharp, because if they're not sharp, they're dangerous. And I cut that way. Most people squirm when they see that, but that's the way I cut. That's the way I was taught, so that's just the way I do it. All right, I'm probably going to have to come around to the front to finish this up. All right. So, I think these are gorgeous. So this is gonna be the star of the show. So we're going to make them stand out. So the angle, again, oops, running out of space, is going to follow the line. And when you're dealing with colors that are so different, it's nice to, number one, change the height on them up and down, and number two, to try to group as much as you possibly can. So without being monotonous, I'm going to try to get 3 of these in. And this one could actually go in an angle down because, again, it's at the fireplace. So we're going to put that in there like that. All right. I'm going to put a few white ones here. And it's okay to cut your flowers up to meet your will, which is kind of nice. So because I just wanted maybe one of these, I just kept cutting until I got one, because the rest of it was just too busy. And this, I would love to do the whole thing, but I'm afraid it might be too, well, we'll try it and see. I guess it depends on where I put it. So if I put it here, it's not too tall, and I can just drop it in there. So that looks better than having that whole thing in one clump. I mean, that would be great if this was my focal point. Can you see how I did that? All right. So, and I will say that arranging flowers is a messy business, so keep a trash can at hand, on hand. And all right, so I'm just going to continue. Do the same on the other side. This one can actually come out from here. And when you insert try to get at least an inch, inch and a half into the medium because it'll hold it. And it helps give it water for a longer period of time. And again, because this is a holiday piece, you want it to last. And that's why we're using mums. Okay, so when we get to, let me throw this one in here somewhere. Yeah, this looks, actually I'm gonna put it back here. So when we get towards the center, let me back up. I want you to see how I place that one. So it's placed, everything doesn't have to face forward like headlights. So normally things would grow in different directions. So it's okay to have something, matter of fact, I'm gonna turn this one around too. It's okay to have something face slightly off center. And the only other thing you have to worry about is just try to get as much balance as you can. All right. Kate, how's that looking from back there? She stepped away? All right. So when you are looking at this from the fireplace, you are going to be below. So it's important to get things coming down in your view. And I can't find a hole. Okay, there we go, there we go. So this needs to go here. All right, okay. So now we'll put in some hypericum berries. I just strip them and drop them in. These happen to be some gorgeous ones. And again, up and down and in and behind. The more varied the insertion, the more interesting the piece. That probably needs to be higher up. Okay. Oops. Got away from me. Okay. And it doesn't have to, you know, if I see more space over here, I might put 2 berries over here just at different heights. So it doesn't have to be matchy-matchy, but just balance. That's the key. You just want it to balance. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there, and then we're going to look and see if we need any ornaments. Or I did pull a few things. I actually pulled some ribbon, and I thought, I don't usually do ribbon anymore, but because some people still like ribbon, so I thought I'd show you how to, or a quick way to insert it that makes it a lot easier. This might end up, by the time I finish cutting this, this might be way too short to put in here, but we will see. I'm gonna try to get it right there. There we go. All right, so let me grab the ribbon. Okay, so the easiest way to do it is to see if I can find a pick. It's not big enough. Maybe I'll just use a stick. I'm gonna cut off one. All right. All right. So there are a couple of ways to do it. I sometimes use binding wire to make a few bows. And I think I'll do that a little bit. Sorry, I should have done this before we started, but it'll just take a second. So this binding wire, you can buy it at any of the hardware stores or hobby stores or floral shops. And all it is a thin wire that's covered with a paper, and it comes in green or kind of a burlap color. And this one is green, obviously. All right, so I'm just going to take a couple of pieces of ribbon. I'm going to twist it. Yeah, that's too busy. I don't have to do all that to it. Let's see. Yep, that'll work. Okay. Whoops. So I could just use, actually I might do that if it's long enough. We have these picks, and they have a little bit of wire on it, but it's a very thin wire. So sometimes I use them, but they generally break. So I'm going to try to be gentle this time. Okay, so you just twist it around and then you finish it off on the stick like this. All right, and then we decide where we really want this bow to go. And I think it would look nice kind of on the edge of here. And so I'm going to put it like that and then let it hang out. All right, and then we'll do maybe another one there and then one back there. Okay. Oh, come on. Just do the thing. All right, that's good enough. Some things are so simple until you start doing them, and then all of a sudden you forget. All right, so I'm going to stick this one maybe right in here and bring that down. The thing that's nice about some of these ribbons is they already have wire in them, or they're stiff enough that you don't really need to do much with it. So we're just going to take a piece here and poke it. So I'm going to bring it and then wrap it and then bring it off on the other end. So this is where I use my little poker. So I just take, so I'm actually just going to stick this down in the oasis and then wrap it. You just got to find a spot, and it's kind of okay if it goes around a flower. It doesn't really matter. Just find a spot that looks interesting, and then just weave it through. Now I could, actually I might just end this piece right here in a little bow. I might just do that. Oops. We'll see. We'll play with that for a minute. And then I'm just going to stick this one in as a tail. Because the truth of the matter is, if I had actually woven this ribbon in, it's going to start and stop and start and stop and start and stop. So that's the look that you're trying to go for. You're trying to make it look like this is all one piece, and you just wove it throughout. And it's always a good idea to put something towards the back. It gives you depth. And I'm just going to do one more piece of this, and I think I'm going to call it a day with the ribbon. I'm doing very good to put it in at all, because I used to love it, and I used to have so much of it. And when I had the flower shop, I had stands full of ribbon, and I just loved buying it and all. But yeah, we're going for simpler things. So anyway, that's that with the ribbon. And now we'll pop in a couple of these, and I'm going to put them so that they are kind of grouped together. And maybe one of them to hold this piece down. All right, we'll do that. And I'm going to step back and look, because you can never tell what it looks like until you give it some space. Oh, that looks pretty good. So I would put in, let's see, a little more hanging stuff right here in the front. So let me grab some eucalyptus and finish that off. Whoops. And I think that was all that was going on this piece. Let me just see. Let's see, mums, red and white. Oh, I could pop a couple of roses in. Let's see what it, I'm not sure if it needs it, but if it does, right in the front would be a nice focal point. Now, the rose is not going to last as long as the mums, so just keep that in mind. And what you might want to do, depending on how hot it is in your house, you might want to put the rose in a water tube. I'm going to get one more piece for this. Let's see. And one more piece. Always one more piece. Always, always. I think it looks pretty good, guys. What do you think? You think so? You wouldn't? Okay. We can leave it like that. I mean, we could always add a few more of these just further in, just to lighten it up. I'll just show you how to do that real quick. But I wouldn't put anything to take away from it. And for me, I don't particularly like, see, I like the way that one is up there, so maybe what I'll do is bring this one down this way. When you do cut your flowers, make sure if you have a nub on it or right here, just make sure you cut that down, because that will tear up your oasis going in. All right, so I'm going to try to bring that. There we go. All right, I think, let me just clear off the table so that you can see it, and I think that'll be our first piece. Now, I always spray all of my arrangements with finish spray. Don't need it? Need it or don't need it? No, that's cleaning spray. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's in the flower room. Do you think we should put some of this in? Let me cut it and see. Maybe right towards the front. Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, I like that. Okay. All right, so yeah, finish spray, and we'll do this as a feature. Now it looks like a gift. Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. All right, Kate, where we're going to put this, we got to put it aside somewhere. All right. So this is like a hydration solution. There's actually two different types. This one is called finish spray, and the other one is called Crown and Glory, and they basically do the same thing, but they help to hold in the moisture in your plants and flowers and greenery to just make them last longer. Hi, welcome back. We are now going to go to our second arrangement, and please stay with us. We're only going to do 4, and I can promise you they'll move pretty quickly. But everybody loves roses, and these red roses, these are called Freedoms. They're just pretty. They're just a classic rose, nothing different about them, but they're just a beautiful rose when they open up. They don't look real. But we're going to show you how to make a simple rose arrangement. So I got an urn, and you probably can't see this, but I have inserted a wire mesh. This is chicken wire, and you can cut it to different sizes. I use it all the time now when I do vase arrangements, because the other way was you tape the grid, and then when you go to insert things, everything just really sat on top because it couldn't go through the grid. But this way, it gives you a lot more flexibility. So we're going to just start with the roses. So when you get your roses, the first thing you want to do is put a fresh cut on them and put them in cool water with preservative in it. If you have, before you do that, you're going to remove all of the limbs off the bottom. Oddly enough, as pretty as roses are, their leaves are usually horrible. So you want to remove them anyway, at least what goes down into the water. And where possible, you want to scrape down to dull any thorns, because when you put them in your arrangement, you don't want them scraping the stem of another rose, because it can easily then become infected, and then it'll start killing your whole arrangement. So we're going to start with the grid principle. First thing I'm going to do is put a little greenery in. So I've got 3 types of greenery that I'm going to use. The first one is called huck, or huckleberry. And it is just kind of a very simple greenery that looks like would you say this looks a little bit like a privet bush? A little bit, yeah. So it's very gardeny, and I just really enjoy working with it. The other thing is it just lasts forever. But it also has a lot of twists and turns and angles to it, so that it makes it nice to work with. You see, like that. I mean, that's just perfect. I couldn't have done better myself, so I'm just going to keep that just like it is and use it. So I'm going to stick that out. See? So that gives me some side interest. And here's another one that's gorgeous. It might be too busy, but we'll see. If I can use it, I'm going to. And I might cut out that last one. It might be a little too long there. So I'll cut that one out, leave it. And maybe just one more piece. You don't need a lot of this because it just works so well. And maybe, oops. And I'm sticking it in at about a 45-degree angle. I find that when you first start with this wire, that's probably the best thing to do, because it starts to build a mesh inside. And then everything else goes on top of that. So we're going to use myrtle. And again, this is a great greenery. I like greenery that lasts a while. So this one, so I have to decide how tall I want this arrangement to be. And that'll tell me, I think I can cut this down a little bit more. This will tell me, and I believe this container actually goes all the way down. Yep, it does. So I'm going to take off a few more of these because they're in the way of the wire. There we go. There it goes. All right, so that's one. And I'll do another one that's kind of thin. This one has a little angle to it. So whenever you have a natural angle, you just try to play with it as much as you can. It's a lot easier to use something that's already bent than to try to bend something that's straight, because Mother Nature is not that forgiving. All right, so that goes, whoops, dropped a little leaf down there. It'll be fine. I'll get to it later. All right, now, so the thing about your roses is you really want to have more than one height. That's the biggest thing. So I'm going to start putting in some of the taller ones first, and then I'll go back and fill in with the shorter ones to give it a little more interest. And that's probably different than what you're used to, because usually when you do a vase arrangement, they try to make it almost dome-like. You know, everything is, when you look at the arrangement when it's finished, it's kind of shaped like that. All of the roses are lined up. But I find, especially if you are a gardener, you can appreciate this. I just find when you have different angles and all, it just makes it more interesting. Oops. See, I don't want these to go in that far, so I'm gonna have to put in a little more greenery because I don't want them to drop down to the bottom. So hold up 1 second. I'm gonna fill it with myrtle. I love this Lazy Susan. You can see all the way around as you work. It makes a big difference. Okay, we're going to put some of this nagi in. Maybe I'll do some of that now. It has this wonderful lemony smell to it. Again, it lasts forever. Has a thick stem, so I'm not going to be able to put it in too far, but it just does really great. Oh, it smells so good. I wish you could smell this. All right, so we're going to pop some of this in. That'll help fill in some space. Hoping it won't be too much. I think I can only do 2 pieces of this because it really is, it's just lush. Let me see if I can find a piece that's not as full. And the answer is no, because this has a curve to it. So again, we just go with what we got. I just hate cutting this off because you know what, I think I'll put this aside, and if I have an arrangement, maybe when I get to the end, I can pop these little pieces in something because they're just so pretty. They're almost waxy. If you were here touching them, you'd see what I mean. They're great. All right. Okay, so we're in. Now, back to the roses. So you've already taken off the leaves, and you have, what else have we done? We took off the thorns, so you're going to measure to see how far you want this to go, and you're going to cut everything on an angle. So we go in. And it's, if you can get them to, yeah, there, that's much better. So you see the difference? So when I did it the first time, you notice how they dropped in? So you want them to kind of get right into the center there so that they hold and you won't, they don't drop into the bottom. That's the key. Yeah. So you see where I'm going with this. So I'm just going to keep cutting and poking. Kate, you got any questions? So the reason, she asked if I changed the length from when we started, because when we started, they all dropped down to the bottom, and it was because the mesh it wasn't tight enough. So I had to add more filler to hold it in. So now it's further, so now it's probably about here. Before it fell down to here. And that's what you want, because you want it to bloom out. So now, to keep this interesting, you start dropping in low. So these little short guys, they go in to fill a different space. See how that changed the look? I just think it looks more natural and more interesting. But it's your flowers, and when you get your vase, you can do it any way you want. I mean, you know, right now, there's so many arrangements don't even have greenery. You know, they're just very simple, which is fine, because a bunch of these roses tied in tightly together would be gorgeous. But if you still like the beauty of a rose, you have some versatility here. And it makes the arranging process, I think, a lot easier. So I'm going to just kind of keep poking. And remember, when you do, every flower should stand out. Somebody used to say, imagine you're a butterfly and you want to be able to rest on every flower. So you move them around so that they show. Because you don't want to hide their beauty. Okay, let's see. So right now I'm going to start I'm just going to keep cutting these lower, filling them in around the outside so that they look interesting. Can you think of anything else that I need to remind them of, Kate? No? Okay. All right. And hopefully, you're going to send something out later, right? So they'll know if they have any questions, they can ask them, and we'll try to get back with them. It's right now with people being so restricted in activities, arranging flowers is just a happy place. You know, and it doesn't have to be, I mean, this is pretty elaborate, but you can buy flowers, you can buy roses now at some of the grocery stores for, you know, 12, 15 bucks a dozen. And you can cut greenery out of your yard. Just remember to kind of do your grid. You know, it looks like a lot, doesn't it? It was a baker's dozen. It was 13. And growers sometimes do that. As it turned out, one of them fell apart, so now I have a dozen. So yeah, they call it a baker's dozen. Now, I bought most of these flowers at two sources, at Carlstadt's and Georgia State Flowers. Georgia State only sells to the trade, so you'd have to be either in the Flower Guild or a florist or something like that. But Carlstadt sells to the general public. this one is going to be just a little too long. So I'll cut that back. That was a leaf that I was cutting, not a rose. I was not pruning the bush. Now, if I were doing this and leaving this up for a while, these roses that I'm placing right now that are extended, I would probably wire them because I wouldn't want, as they continue to open, the heads get heavy, and I would not want them to droop. That's not a very pretty rose. I think I'm going to move you. You don't get center stage. You got to go back here. Sorry about that. There you go. Okay. All right. Does it look pretty even? I'm going to have to come out and look at it. Okay. Let me, I wish you could see me fighting with this. So when you're trying to make an insertion, the general rule is to keep your hand as low as possible. Because if you start pushing from here and you hit something, it's going to bend it and break it. So you start from here, and then when you run into an obstruction, you twist, because that changes that root angle from there to there. So you just twist it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm in here twisting. I'm in here twisting. Okay, there we go. Now, but it doesn't want to go where I want it, so now you just got to find another spot because its angle isn't cooperating. All right, so let me just see. I think I need something here, and if you have to move stuff around, this is the time to do it. So let me step out before I put the white flowers in and see. Okay, I like this. So this is blocking my flower, which I don't really like. So I'm either going to have to pull it down so that it does right. I think that'll help. Okay. All right, so that's good. So the only other thing we're going to add is this. That is broken. And cut that off. Okay. So we're going to add these in. And like I said, if you think something needs to be moved, just reposition it. Just loosen it up a little bit. Okay, so this is Veronica. And Veronica, poor Veronica. Veronica is a sweet little flower, but she just has terrible hair. So I take off all her leaves. She is always having a bad hair day. Yeah, see? Oh, well. But we're going to put these in so that they show. So I'm going to kind of concentrate on the outside, on the edges. I just love the way it droops. Just make sure that you're getting it far enough in that about 1.5 inches is in water. And once this is all done, you can add more water to it, because it'll take water all the way up to the top once it's in position. But this, I think, is so much easier. See, if I were working with Oasis, I wouldn't be able to get these kinds of angles without having the Oasis stand up over top of the vase, because you'd have to keep it up that way so that all of the flowers could go into the sides and all. But so this is, I think, just my opinion, I think it's nicer and easier and prettier. And if you disagree, just send me an email. That's all. Okay, we're almost done. Speed up this process a little bit. Oops. I hope I left room for my branches. Just dawned on me that I was putting those in. And you know what I think I'm going to put around the edge? I think I'm going to put some of that eucalyptus in there, because that'll look pretty hanging. I keep running into branches. Here we go. All right. And just a few more. I think we'll be done. This little guy is still trying to get attention, and she's just not getting her rightful due. Let's see. Where do you want to go? I know you want to be with the big guys. Okay, here, try it there. Yeah, now you're happy. Good. Okay. So I'll put one here and one here. And then we'll finish it off with the birch branches. And I like them to come, let's see, maybe this tall. Oh, well, see, they're dry, so you could do I could turn around and spray this 3 more times, 3 different colors, and it would be fine, because they're dry. But I did spray them about a month ago. So I didn't spray them for this particular event, but I was working on something, and it might have been something for the church, and I just needed, because see, against the church, it shows up better than a natural color would, because the natural just gets washed out. And I use, okay, there's a floral paint, and this is a matte white. And that makes it look a little more natural, I think. There we go. All right, so we're going to finish this off by putting some drooping yuke around the edge to soften it some. I just don't like the way it's not resting on the edge of the container the way I would like. So that helps. Yeah, it does it, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. And and that's really kind of the way I look at it. I mean, when you're doing a flower arrangement, go back and look at the whole thing and then decide if it's underdressed or overdressed. And if you feel that it's underdressed, just add a little something. And if it's overdressed, then take something out. And whatever you do, don't feel committed to using all the flowers just because you bought them. Put them in another container and put them in your bathroom. Oh yeah, I like that. That's so nice and soft. Yeah. Let's see, I need 2 more pieces. And 1 more. I don't think I have another one here. It makes it pop, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. I don't know if you guys could hear Kate. She was saying that the little touch of white and then this silver gray greenery transforms it from a regular rose bouquet to something that's totally different. And I agree. And okay, I think we are done. Let me just see, I could stick this up in here to add. And don't shoo my tools in the trash. Get those out the way. All right, I'm gonna back up so you can see what it looks like. Okay, so this is a classic rose vase arrangement made simpler with the wire, but you could have also taped it, those of you who like taping. That would have been fine. But I think the biggest thing that I want you to remember in here is to keep the different heights. See how you can just see all the way into the arrangement? So you have them long and short and kind of tucked in behind, and it gives more interest. And then we softened it with a little bit of white. We added height with the branches, and by painting them white, they show up better and makes it more festive. And then we added this draping eucalyptus to finish it off. Hope you like it. Thank you.